There's a lot of planning that goes into travel as a chronic illness person, which is why, again, it is so stressful and so exhausting. Because our illnesses are unpredictable in nature, and we don't know if we're going to wake up feeling like ass or $1,000,000 one day, we have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan F, plan Z, and be able to roll with the punches. A vacation is not just about doing things in a different place. It's about recovering, resting, and relaxing. So, indulge yourself. Really enjoy it. Hello, and welcome back to another week of Calling in Sick. I'm your host, Alex Bildison. As you can tell, I am not at home, and if you listened to last week's episode, I'm on vacation and I'm recording this one for you guys. Sneak peek, this is an episode about how to travel with chronic illness. But before we dive into that, I'll give you guys a little update on all things in my life. So, this last week, goodness, I had so much anxiety. For starters, I am on 60 milligrams of prednisone. I saw my dermatologist a week and a half ago. She's actually the one that diagnosed me with vasculitis. She found the lump on my foot in 2019, biopsied it, and that's how we found out what I had. So I see her every few months. I also get a lot of skin isms with being autoimmune, and she helps me manage all of that. So went in to go see her, get some moles checked, whole 9 yards, and she's one of those doctors that knows me so well that when I walk in, even if I look good, say I'm good, but I'm feeling bad, she's gonna know. But apparently I looked bad, and I was feeling bad, and I said I was bad, so there was no need for any reading between the lines on that appointment. She looked at me and said, okay, what milligram of prednisone are we on right now? Because we need to go up. So I went from 40 milligrams of prednisone in like May, June, tapered down to 20 milligrams by October, and now I'm back up to 60 milligrams, and it's November, but it's only 2 weeks at 60, and then 2 weeks at 40, and then back down to 20. And then hopefully continue that taper all the way down to 0. But I have to remember, I have to listen to my body, and even though I want to be off steroids so badly, I have to do what's safe and what is needed for my body, which can be incredibly frustrating sometimes. So yeah, I'm on quite a bit of steroids, but it's definitely allowing me to be here on this vacation right now and have the energy to not just be here, but also enjoy being on the vacation, which there is a difference. You can be present, or you can be present and enjoying. And I think as chronically ill people, we will push through to just be present sometimes. And so when we can push through and be present and enjoy, it's like one of the greatest gifts, I think, and something to be incredibly grateful for, because that's a luxury. Because I am on 60 milligrams of prednisone, my anxiety is also through the motherfucking roof. And so this whole week leading up to travel, I was so anxious. And I'm not a great packer. I will kick that down the road as long as I possibly can and kind of think like, well, maybe we just won't go. You know, maybe we just won't make it, and that's okay. Not a big deal. But Cooper, bless his soul, was like, we're not planning for that. We're planning to go. So let's start the packing process. So we actually started packing, I want to say on like Tuesday for a Friday departure. And thank God Cooper had me do that, because there's no way in hell I could have packed the night before. So we start packing Tuesday, all the clothes are pulled out, no toiletries, but that part is done. Wednesday I work a full day, Thursday I work a full day, I record a podcast episode, last week's episode with Joe, I have to finish packing, I get a spray tan, and at that point it's like 10 p.m., and I don't have time to stress or worry anymore. It's just get to sleep and wake up the next morning. And we did. So maybe that's the biggest tip of all, is just be so busy you can't even think about being stressed. So yeah, this week was just like a lot of stress and build up anxiety. And I want to dive into all of that in this week's episode, because I think it's something we probably can all relate to when we talk about leaving our comfort zone and going on a trip. But before we dive into that, I want to go into my picks of the week, which I'm very excited about because they are the travel essentials. So my first pick of the week is Buoy. Buoy is my go-to electrolyte drop. that you can add to any beverage. There's no flavor in it. There's no artificial sweeteners, no artificial flavors, nothing. It's just literally electrolytes. And that has been a lifesaver while traveling. Put it in my beverage in the morning, usually my coffee. And then at nighttime and sometimes midday, I'm just all about that life. So drink Buoy. It's amazing. Discount code will be linked in my stories this week. If you are chronically ill, you actually get 35% off for life if you subscribe, which is so amazing of them to do that. And then if you use my discount code, you get an additional 20% off your first order. So your first order is 55% off. We love companies that say they are for the chronically ill and then put their action behind it, like making it affordable for people that have a lot of bills. Thank you, Buoy, for being so mindful. I wonder why. It was founded by someone that has a chronic illness. Thank you. We love you. So check my stories. I don't have a discount code. I have a discount link for you guys. So check my stories this week or send me a DM or comment below and I'll hook you up so that you can get properly hydrated, because hydration is everything when you're chronically ill. And then my second chronic illness pick of the week is Supergoop. So chronic illness on vacation, especially a beach vacation or somewhere warm, our biggest enemy and our favorite thing, the sun. The sun will make us a little bit more sick. It'll zap our energy, probably make our skin flare up a little bit. So having ample and the right kind of skin protection is critical. I love Supergoop because it's clean ingredients, does not make my skin itchy, react, anything. I know that I can count on it every single time, and they have the proper amount of SPF for me. So I am a huge fan. I like their body glow oil. I use their unseen face sunscreen, and then I use their lip sunscreen too. And as you can tell, so far, your girl, no sunburn. Knock on wood, because who knows, I might in a couple hours here when I get back outside. I am a sun lizard, and I know I shouldn't be because I have lupus or mixed connective tissue disease, and the sun is, maybe my biggest enemy. And I have vasculitis, and it makes that a whole hell of a lot worse. I should actually maybe put some pictures on my stories this week of the honeymoon Cooper and I took. We went to Miami after our wedding back in 2019. It's almost been 5 years, guys. We're actually on our 5-year anniversary trip. We were just laying out in the sun, and I got so fucking sunburned. It caused ulcerations up all my vasculitis nodules, and it was so painful. So the rest of the trip, I was like covering my body up in blankets or towels, We ended up renting a cabana, which we would literally never do. That seems like a bougie expense when you can use an umbrella. But we did it because I was in severe amount of pain. Thankfully, we also learned about lidocaine aloe on that trip, and that's a fucking lifesaver. I digress. So anyway, my wellness picks and tricks for this week are Buoy to stay hydrated and Supergoop to stay protected. And those are my two key essentials when I'm traveling anywhere. And before we dive in, I just want to do a thank you shout out to everybody. You guys are amazing growing this community. I see everybody commenting on each other's comments, and it brings so much joy into my heart. So from the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. Thank you for being a part of this journey and this community. Please continue to like, follow, subscribe, send to a friend, send to your doctor, and let's keep this community growing. So let's set the stage. Why is traveling so stressful with a chronic illness? And I think there's a plethora of reasons, right? Obviously, it's never can just be one thing. And I want to try to hit them all, and I know I'm not going to. So let me know what I'm forgetting, because I have brain fog, and I'm sure I am. Talking about brain fog, I think that's one of the number one things why traveling is so stressful. We feel like, or at least I feel like, I'm going to forget something critical when I'm traveling. Maybe I booked the tickets on the wrong day. I've done that before. Maybe I booked the hotel in a different city on accident. I've also done that before. Maybe I'm going to forget my medicine at home. I've done that before. There's a lot of things and places where if you have a brain fog slip, there can be repercussions that are very stressful. So there's just this baseline foundational level of stress, of pressure on ourselves to execute on the planning of a trip. Now, my tip and trick to that is to lean on someone. I have Cooper check everything before I ever hit purchase. Dates, times, locations. He is the second set of eyes. If you don't have a partner to do that with, send a screenshot to a friend and be like, I just need you to double check me. Is this right? You don't have to be embarrassed at all. We're chronic illness baddies. Send it to one of us. We're not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you. You can send it to me and I will definitely check for you. I got you. One time I accidentally booked Cooper in my hotel for the next year. We got there, realized it was, a year in advance that we had arrived. And thankfully the hotel had availability, and they kind of laughed, honored our room, got us all booked and everything. And we all had a nice chuckle, but I was mortified when we got there and checked in and they said, we don't have a reservation for you guys this week. We have one for you in a year. And I just remember like my face falling, and I could have started crying, but Cooper started belly laughing, and that made me feel like, okay, this is one of those moments where we laugh or we cry, and maybe we cry later, but let's just laugh now because that's a hell of a lot less embarrassing. So anyway, second set of eyes, huge tip. We need it. We absolutely need it, and we deserve it. The second thing that makes travel stressful as a chronically ill person for me is that I put a lot of pressure on the trip. We don't get to travel all that much, Cooper and I. Part of that is because traveling does make me usually flare, and if we're going to travel, we've got to make sure it's at like a time period where I can flare up afterwards, which is really strange to have to plan for that. Also, it's a financial decision, and we spend quite a bit of our money and our earnings on managing my health. And so that leftover, I think there's like this intrinsic level of guilt of, well, should we be going and doing something fun, or should we be saving that money? It's something that we struggle with, and we talk about pretty openly and often because we should. We're a couple, and we need to make those decisions together. And on that same note, there's a lot of pressure with wanting the trip to be the best trip possible, since there aren't that many opportunities to travel. And so then that adds extra pressure on the planning aspect and the brain fog and all of this. So when you're even thinking about going somewhere, the anxiety kind of sets in. And as I'm saying this, I also can hold true at the same time that that's so privileged. Like, I'm getting to go on a trip. I am, one, able enough to travel, and two, have the means to do it. And I know I'm lucky, and I'm really grateful for that. That said, I think it's pretty normal that we all have these anxieties being chronically ill, so I want to talk about them. The next part of why traveling is so stressful is the actual planning. So because our illnesses are unpredictable in nature, and we don't know if we're going to wake up feeling like ass or $1,000,000 one day during our trip, we have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan F, plan Z, and be able to roll with the punches. But that means that there's a lot more planning that has to go into the trip before you even leave, so that you have those things lined up and you can have the luxury of picking and choosing what you want to do every day. Thankfully, I have found that using ChatGPT is so incredibly helpful with that, and I can plug in our travel destination, what we like to do, what our kind of ideal routine is, why we need a backup plan, what that kind of ideal backup plan would be, and I lean on that to help us make our itinerary. And also, Cooper is a master of trip planning. He loves doing it, so we lean on each other to navigate that as well. And lastly, I think there's a lot of stress on like what you are bringing with you. We don't get the luxury of having just a carry-on duffel and throwing a couple things in it and wishing for the best and hoping that you brought the right stuff. We literally can't do that, because then we would get here and probably be very sick. You need to think through the medicines you need to bring weeks in advance. You need to think about the layers, the topicals, the wellness tools that you need, the mobility aids that you might need, the accommodations you might need at your destination. there's a lot of planning that goes into travel as a chronic illness person, which is why, again, it is so stressful and so exhausting. But that's why we're making this episode. So hopefully it can be a little bit less stressful, and this can be helpful as you think about and approach your next trip. So let's get into packing. I wrote down my list so that I can make sure I don't leave anything out. So let's start with packing. Clothing, lay it out. You're going to want layers for sure. I have a hard time regulating my temperature, especially when I'm on prednisone. So I can be in 80 degrees and maybe be needing to wear a sweatsuit like right now. Or it could be 30 degrees and I might need shorts and a t-shirt because my body is unpredictable like that. So pick what makes sense. You guys know me, I'm an OOTD girly. You can still make it cute and have bunches and bunches of layers. And the hack for that is on Amazon. You can get these bags that you squeeze all the air out and it compresses and like pressure zip seals your clothes. So you can fit way more clothing in your suitcase. It will be massively overweight, FYI. But you can fit all of the layer options that you want and bring your entire closet with you when you travel. Yay! For shoes, bring the cute shoes. Totally do it. Bring the tennis shoes too, so you always can change into them. I will usually bring like 2 pairs of heels and I never end up wearing them. I don't remember the last time I wore heels. Too difficult for me, hurts my feet. I can't feel them all the time, so I can't feel my left foot all the time, so I really can't walk safely in heels. So I bring usually a plethora of shoes and I always bring slippers because your feet are going to hurt at the end of the day. Actually, they might not. It might just be me, guys. I know it's not just me. I know a lot of us have feet pain. But my feet hurt at the end of the day. So I bring slippers anywhere I go. It also brings me a little bit of home, and that brings me comfort. Speaking of bringing things that bring you home, I bring a blankie. I'm like a little kid. I still bring a blanket with me. I tell Cooper that it's my travel blanket so that I can have it on the plane to stay warm. Honestly, it smells like my dog's. I can put it in between my knees when I'm sleeping. I can cozy up to it. And it just makes me feel a little semblance of like home and routine. And for me, I need that when I'm traveling because I get homesick for just my house and my dogs when I'm gone. Cozy clothes. That is a must. If you are gone even for a few days, the cozies are like the biggest thing. We live in these. If we have a day where we wake up and we don't feel good, you'll be in the cozies. So bring 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 cozy sets that bring you joy, are soft. I actually saw someone messaged me this week on Instagram when I was talking about how I had the stress about traveling. And they said, you know what, Alex, embrace it because a cup of coffee with a place with a good view in your cozies is always still going to be better than a cup of coffee in your cozies in your bed at home. And I was like, you know what, that's so true. So even if you don't feel good one of the days that you're traveling and on vacation, put on your cozies and know at least you're enjoying those cozies in a different location. And that in and of itself is a little treat. Accessories. I'm putting that in air quotes if you're not watching. Accessories for chronic illness baddies is different than like purses and jewelry and hats. Well, actually it does include hats, but accessories for the chronically ill is like extra sun protection, maybe a sun shawl, a hat. If you're going somewhere cold, hand warmers that you can put in your coat, feet warmers that you can put in your shoes, that extra layer of whatever is going to make you comfortable. That also includes mobility aids. Whenever I travel, I'm bringing my shit with me because I don't know what I'm going to be like when I land, and I would way rather be over-prepared and not have to use them than be underprepared and then be unable to do something because I just stupidly didn't bring a cane or didn't rent a wheelchair or didn't bring my compression socks and then I'm in too much pain. So bring them. It's better to be over-prepared, and I think we all know that. That's kind of a guaranteed with being chronically ill. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Now let's talk DOP kit. I bring all of my products from home. Even if we're staying at a nice place that I know is going to have non-toxic, like showering gear, accoutrement, I bring my stuff from home because I know my skin and my body won't react to my stuff. And honestly, it's not worth the risk of getting a rash all over my body simply by simply not bringing that stuff. Hack, because those little travel plastic things that you can get at Target break all the time. They're just not, they leak. They're not that great. The little travel bottles that you can pour your stuff into. Cadence is, I should have added this to my Alex's Wellness pick of the week. Cadence makes these little stackable cubes. They're kind of expensive, I'm going to be honest. So worth it though. You can just scoop your products into it. They magnet together. They make this little cute honeycomb, and they literally they are leak proof. Amazing. I am so obsessed. I will get a discount code for you guys and put it on my socials this week for Cadence. Other things I like to bring in my DOP kit that you might not think of are a dry brush and body oil to help with lymphatic drainage. When we're traveling, our body is stressed out more, so we're probably not detoxing quite as well. So I like to bring things that can promote that. So dry brush, body oil. I bring my face roller. I throw it in the little mini fridge always here, and then do that in the morning and at night, and it just helps get everything kind of flowing and out, especially if you're traveling by air. You want to get that shit out of your body ASAP and be drinking a ton of water. I also like bringing little self-care things like a face mask, little eye patches, anything that makes you have a TLC moment when you're not feeling as well, or maybe you have to miss out on an activity. You can make your own fun. Okay, now probably the most important part, meds. So I'm sure all of us have this story. It's the day before travel. You look at your prescription medication and realize, oh my God, I am going to be out of this medicine in 3 days, but I'm going to be traveling. Rush and call your doctor, try to get the script sent to your pharmacy, go to the pharmacy, try to get it filled. It's so stressful. So 10 days before, when I book our flights, 10 days before now, I put a calendar hold or a reminder on my phone, check med refill status. That way I have plenty of time to get my meds refilled. If I need to talk to my doctor, if I need to have an appointment, I've got buffer time. Now, specifically with controlled medication, so think chemotherapies, Xanax, pain medication, all of those you most likely need to see a provider to get a refill. And that turnaround time is usually 72 hours. So this calendar hold hack will literally save your life. There's nothing worse than realizing you are going to be fucked on your vacation because you simply forgot to refill your medication. And I've done that before. I think last time Cooper and I took a trip was to go see, when was this? No, it was when I traveled for work. I was traveling for work with my sister, and I realized I forgot to refill my pain medication. And we were leaving Sunday night, and Friday morning, I realized I was going to be needing a refill the next week. So I called my pain management doctor to see if they could send a bridge script. They said no, made an appointment, went to go see my doctor. They said, okay, here you go, no worries. It's just part of the office policies, unfortunately, that's how it had to go. And then it didn't get filled until Sunday morning. So that was so stressful. I was having sheer anxiety and panic the entire time leading up to it, which was avoidable. Wish I would have remembered to put the calendar hold on for that travel, but for some reason I didn't. And it was a good reminder. So for this trip, I planned ahead and I was very much ready to go. All hands on deck. I also bring my supplements with me when I travel because I want to feel my best, and I know that if I don't bring them, sure, my bags are lighter and I don't have a billion pills with me, I am not setting myself up for the most success possible. And since we don't take that many vacations, I really want to be able to have the most successful vacation. And LOL that I'm referring to it as a successful vacation. I mean successful health-wise, that I'm feeling my best during vacation. So the night before we leave for this trip, I undo my chronically chic medicine organizer, and I realize, oh my God, I haven't been taking my supplements for 2 weeks. Probably why I haven't been feeling amazing. Sometimes I just fall off the horse on functional medicine. Sometimes I fall off the horse on Western medicine too. Both have repercussions. Functional medicine, I think, is a slower, oh shit, I'm feeling bad. That's why I'm feeling bad. I haven't been taking that stuff. Western medicine, I find it's pretty fast. You don't take your meds for a few days and you're like, oh my God, that is why I need medication. I will get back on that. Sometimes I actively choose to not take things because I get through a stubborn phase and I'm like, fuck this, my body can beat anything and I don't need these medicines. 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, it backfires. With functional medicine, usually it's just I get spacey or lazy on refilling my medicine organizer every week. And then I just forget. And then weeks pass and I realize I haven't been doing that. And then when I get back on the horse and start taking them again, I realize, oh my God, these really, really help me feel better. Functional medicine. Lifesaver. So anyway, I filled up all of my supplements and functional medicine isms, and that was it. Thankfully, I don't have any injectable medications right now, so I didn't have to think through syringes and ice packs around the medicines, but for many, many years in my life, I had to travel with a lunchbox with my Emerald shots, my Humira shots, what have you, little freezer packs in those lunch boxes, and that's hard to travel with. And if you travel internationally with injectable medication, you get questioned and stopped, and it's exhausting. So like more to even think through on that front. I think you need to have a doctor's note usually, or I would suggest it because it just makes it easier if you get stopped in customs or something. Sometimes you need that too for like controlled medication. Thankfully, I've never run into that, but could be helpful. Also, when you're packing your medicine, make sure to bring the extras in quotes. So if you have a medication you take a handful of times a year for a migraine, bring it with you, because if you have a migraine when you're traveling or you have the breakthrough pain while you're traveling, it's so much better if you just have the extra med with you that took up that much more room in your bag than not. And on that note, I like to also prepare with IV hydration. So I like to get IV hydration before and/or after I travel. Significantly helps the dysautonomia resettling, and also just helps with kind of like baseline symptoms for me. I don't usually do that when I'm traveling to other cities, but when I get back to home base, that's when I'll do it. And I'm definitely doing it when I come back from this trip because I am rolling into surgery in 6 days. So I want to make sure that my body is at its very tip-top shape, ready to go fighting before I get this port placement. And this kind of naturally segues into the next tip, which is pack the tools. Cane, wheelchair, or rent a wheelchair. Any kind of braces you might need, compression socks. I have been known to travel with my Therabody compression pants and my infrared sauna or my infrared PEMF mat by higher dose. Those are huge and take up a shit ton of space in your luggage, but if you are going on an extended trip, or you know you'll be walking a lot, or if you do drink and you're going to be drinking, those are all things that are going to help you feel better no matter what. So it's worth it, in my opinion. I actually didn't bring them this trip, but that's because I knew I was going to be laying on the beach and reading. And I was like, I think I'm going to be okay. And if not, there's also a sauna on this property, so I can use that one. Regardless, bring all of the extra things that make you feel like you have your oh shit moments covered, so you can have a little bit more peace of mind, both when you're packing and getting that build-up anxiety and when you're there if something does go awry. Now let's talk about the split into the carry-on packing. So meds go on your carry-on. If you lose your luggage and you do not have your medicine, you are actually fucked. So always put that in your carry-on. If that means you need to have a roller luggage carry-on and a backpack, that's what you need, and that's okay. Do what you need to do so that you are safe and set up for a fun vacation and you can enjoy yourself. That said, I put my chronically chic supplements that I pack in the med organizer on my carry-on, but the backup supplements I put in my checked luggage, so I don't carry like 100 pills with me. And then I also put my it's like a protein powder, medical grade nutrient boost powder in my checked luggage, because if I don't have that, it's not the end of the world. If I do have it, it makes me feel a lot better. And I bring my shaker so I can shake up my little protein shake in the morning, because your girl's been having a lot of weight loss with this flare up in the last year, and that helps me maintain some semblance of a healthy weight. Also in my carry-on, let's do like the safety bucket first. So Lysol wipes, N95 mask, backup mask, hand sanitizer, those things. definitely on the carry-on, definitely needed. You really don't want to risk just catching a cold on the airplane, and people will travel sick. They just do. Unfortunately, we can't control that. All we can control is what we are doing. And so bringing those protective measurements and layers, that's all we can do. That's great. Wipe down your chair, wipe down your little counter table when you sit down in your airplane chair. Put on hand sanitizer about 1 million times until your skin is dry. You'll be pleased and happy that you did. Now let's talk about pain control for airplanes or travel days. Flying is really hard for me. I get in a lot of pain. So I bring a little travel heating pad. I bring pain salves, of course. Legal pain salves, guys. Icy hot. That one's usually safe to travel with. CBD is usually safe to travel with, but not internationally. So just check the rules and regulations of wherever you're going. Make sure that what you're bringing is okay. Lidocaine patches, lidocaine topicals, those are all excellent and they really do help. So those are right in my checked bag, in my back, or not my checked bag. Those are in my carry-on with me, usually in like the backpacker purse. So they're very accessible. And then compression socks. That's a must-have for me. I put them on before we leave for the airport. They're a pain in the ass to put on when you're in the airplane and you're already getting swollen. So do it ahead of time, even though it's not the most comfortable. It does help. Next thing is going to be the dehydration kit. So my Buoy electrolyte squeezer thing, my rescue salt, also by Buoy, my eye drops, chapstick, face lotion. I think that's it. And then my reuse water bottle. And I don't bring that always, like if I'm traveling internationally and like tap water is going to be a no-go. Probably won't bring my water bottle, but if I'm traveling domestically, I do bring my water bottle with me everywhere because I am a wateraholic. All right, next bucket is called comfort. So I already told you guys I bring basically a baby blanket with me. So my blankie, fuzzy socks, eye mask for sleeping, earplugs. I love Loops. They're a great brand. They're very comfortable in your ear. They've got different levels and degrees for noise control. So they've got like a sleeping one, and then they have like a concert version one, and then one that's kind of for dysautonomia, honestly, where you get overstimulated by loud sounds. This version of Loops is for you. I think it's called They're Quiet 2, and it just kind of mutes everything a little bit, the background noise. I found it to be incredibly helpful for managing anxiety when I'm in the airport. Also, I wear glasses when I travel, not my contacts. My eyes get dry as hail on an airplane. So that's my other little hack. The next bucket is entertainment. I bring my Kindle. I bring my laptop because I like to watch movies. And if I'm having a flare day while I'm traveling, I want my laptop so I can watch a movie. I bring all of the chargers, a portable charger, headphones. I think that's it on electronics and entertainment. And obviously my podcasting gear. And that would be like the electronic side of entertainment. And then I always bring my gratitude journal because that is part of my routine that I like continuing while I am in other places. It centers me and settles me and makes me feel like I still have a routine even when I'm traveling, which helps a lot with anxiety management. And then the last thing of entertainment I bring is cards. Cooper and I love to play cards. We have been playing cards together since we were 18. Anywhere we go, even out to dinner, there's a deck of cards always on my person. And that is my entertainment bucket. And then last but not least is the other. And other might be the second most important thing next to your medicines. And that's going to be your ID, your credit card or debit card, maybe some cash. Those are the things you want your partner to double check that you have brought before you even leave your home. Because if you're like me, you've probably also gone to the airport before and realized that you did not bring any form of ID. And it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to board a flight without one of those things. Somehow you can get around it sometimes, but not always. So have somebody double check for you. Maybe even say it out loud. I find that helps a lot. If I say I am putting my credit card and my ID in my purse, and I say it out loud, or I write it down, or I text it to myself, it's a good little second check that that's been done. Now that we're packed, we're on the plane, we've landed, and we're at our destination. Let's talk enjoying your trip. First and foremost, I want to say you do not need to feel guilty for traveling. I think it's really easy to be chronically ill and think that you shouldn't be traveling because it could be making you sicker, that you shouldn't be traveling because other people with chronic illnesses aren't traveling, that you shouldn't be traveling because you've already taken off enough time with work being sick that you shouldn't use additional days off. I'm going to say let's cut that right off. Sick days are not the same as travel days, or not the same as vacation days, I should say. And you, just like everyone else in this world, deserves to have a break, deserves to enjoy life, and deserves to have some fun and see the world. Or spend time with family or friends. So you deserve to be on this trip. And when you're on this trip, I also want to say you do not need to feel guilty about choosing and prioritizing rest. You can do a trip at the pace that your body needs, and that is absolutely okay. If you're traveling with friends, family, or even your partner, I think it's really smart to level set before you go or when you get there so people know kind of what to expect with you. So when we are traveling, I always like to stack hands on what are people's priorities with the trip. Do they want to eat food, a couple really fun meals? Do they want to do some activities? Level setting and knowing what everyone's top 1 to 3 activities or things they want to do on the trip really, really helps. So as you're planning your spoons throughout that time, you know when to lean in or when you can pull back. I also like to let everyone know that if I don't go on something, it's because I need to rest, and that doesn't mean that no one else needs to, that everyone else should also rest. I just have to do that for myself, and that's okay. I like having my little alone time and reading or taking a nap or something. I'm perfectly fine with that. And that gives other people the permission to still go and have fun because they know that you are taken care of. When you're building an itinerary, I think it's super, I already hit on it a little bit earlier, but having those options for different days, having a flexible itinerary is really important because then you can pick out of your pool of options what you have the energy or desire to do any day. And if that looks different from what the rest of the group or your partner or family wants to do, that's also okay. You can do something on your own, and I think we're all pretty capable of entertaining ourselves. And the other thing that's really important to communicate with your little travel group, if you're going in a group, is that you maybe need some buffer days. So the day after you travel and land, that might need to be a lower key day. You might be a little exhausted. So maybe not putting the number 1 priority scheduled activity on that day is a good idea. Speaking of scheduled activities, let's talk about reservations. So I like making reservations for restaurants when we travel, and that's because I can pick out a menu where I know there's going to be things that I can eat there with my dietary restrictions. That said, I am known to book multiple different reservations on the same day for the same meal so that I have options at different levels of niceness, different levels of closeness to the hotel, different types of food if my stomach is feeling meh. So just make sure that if you do pull that trick like I do, make sure that you cancel your reservation so you don't get blocked from OpenTable. Not speaking from personal experience or anything. I have 4 different OpenTable accounts because I've done this so many times. Sorry, OpenTable, please don't come at me. So like picking a restaurant that can accommodate your food preferences and restrictions, picking a place to stay is also very important. I think it is, for me personally, it's always been worth spending a little bit more on where we are staying and then maybe missing out on an activity or excursion or really nice restaurant. I think that as a chronically ill person, our probability of spending time in the room is higher than that of a non-chronically ill person. So I like having a room with a view where if I need to be in bed all day, at least it is a bed with a different view than my bed at home. And that's never served me wrong. It makes me really happy. And that's just my personal preference when we are picking where we're going to stay on vacation. Throughout this episode, you have heard me basically say, here's all the things that you need to do to plan for the worst case scenario. The last thing on my tip list is traveler's health insurance. If you're domestic, I think you're okay. If you're traveling international, this is important. You do not want to get stuck with a massive bill, medical bill, in a different country. Traveler's insurance gives you peace of mind. It gives you the ability to get the treatment and healthcare you need should that arise, and it gives you peace of mind, even if you don't use it. I've never had to use my traveler's health insurance. I also buy it every single time I leave the country because I do not want to risk rolling those dice. The last things I want to talk about on this episode are more of the touchy-feely. I've talked about the anxiety that comes with pre-travel, the nerves and why they're there. Now let's talk about how to get through them. I love breath work. And I'm not saying the 30-minute go outside and do breath work. I mean, take a 6-second breath in, hold for 6 seconds, 6 seconds, inhale, hold for 4 to 6 seconds, and then exhale for 6 seconds. I literally do 3 cycles of that, and it significantly calms my anxiety. That kind of resettles everything when feelings start to percolate. I also try to actively reframe the words I'm using out loud and in my head about anxiety when I'm getting ready to travel and when I'm traveling. It's easy to say, I'm really anxious, I'm really nervous, I'm scared, I'm worried. Excitement and joy produce similar isms in our body to anxiety. Fast heart rate, kind of sweaty, nervous energy. If you can reframe, I'm nervous about this trip to I'm so excited about this trip, you can trick your own brain into not being anxious and being excited. It's like wizardry. I feel like I'm Harry Potter himself when I do this. And I forget that I can do this. So my mom kindly nudged me and reminded me this week that while I was packing and getting anxious, remember to reframe those words because your words have power and your body listens. I also said lots of prayers, and that helped. That centers me always, and that helped get my mind to where it needed to be. That said, the day before travel, I took a Xanax. I was stressed the F out, and I needed that extra little icing on top to get me to a place where I could actually execute on what I needed to do in order to go on our trip. As you hear me talking about this, you can probably hear in my tone, I've already forgiven myself and given myself grace for the nervousness, anxiety, and buildup of stress that I carried all the way through until we got here, and that I definitely spilled onto Cooper. And thankfully, Cooper also has given me grace and forgiveness for that. It's easy to beat yourself up and use negative words, and I talked about that a little bit this week on my socials, that we are our own worst critics, our own worst gaslighters, but our words do have power. And so my favorite thing to tell other people is, hey, when you're talking to yourself, always say, would I say this to my best friend? And if the answer is no, then you got to change how you're talking to yourself. I don't listen to my own advice very well, but I will say this time and time again until some point it sticks and I start also talking to myself a little bit kinder and a little bit more gentle as well. But we can do this together. I've sprinkled in throughout the guilt that can come with travel, be it the cognitive dissonance of I'm really anxious to leave my routine and oh my gosh, I'm so lucky I get to leave my routine. And I also think there's an embedded layer of guilt when you're there and you have to miss out on an activity, or you choose to skip out on an activity. Remind yourself that life is short and that this is a day in the grand scheme of things, like a little minuscule dot in a gigantic canvas of nothing. If you need to skip out on an activity, if you need to forgive yourself for having this cognitive dissonance, do it, because you get to only take, because these trips are few and far between for us. So I empower you to enjoy them and to get rid of that guilt and throw it right into the fuck it bucket, because that is not necessary. You deserve to enjoy this trip. You deserve to enjoy life, and any moment you get to carve out that feels normal, or better yet, feels special. And that guilt of, I'm not doing this the right way, I am missing out, or I'm disappointing people on this trip, is meaningless. And honestly, if people are disappointed that you haven't been able to show up to something on a trip, fuck it. It's enough that you're already there. Like, that's truly amazing. For this trip, I told you guys already, it's our anniversary trip. It's also one of our friends' weddings. And last night was a welcomes drink event. And at At 7:30, Cooper and I looked at each other and we said, you want to get into bed and watch Ice Age 3? Yep. And that's what we did. And at first I was so guilty and I felt awful that, we'd flown all the way down here, and FYI, we're in Mexico. We flew all the way down to Mexico for our friend's wedding. It's a small wedding, and we were missing the welcome reception or the welcome drinks. And I texted him, and he said, please don't apologize. You're here, and that's enough. Like, that is huge. So your right friends and the good people in your life are going to be appreciative of any spoons that you can use and are going to be cheering you on that you're even on the trip and you made it to the destination, because that's a lot of work for people like us. And so having good people in your corner that know that and celebrate that is pretty amazing. Now, let's say you overdo it. This is when all of your very careful precision planning comes into play. You've got your backup recovery plan. So let's talk about your recovery day. I want you to get up, take a shower, put on new cozies. You're having a duvet day, because even though you don't feel good, you are on vacation and you are treating yourself today. Clean PJs, get right back in bed, full thing of big ass water next to you. Make sure that you're eating pretty consistently throughout the day so you can regain that strength. Take the extra medicine that you need, throw on the boob tube, and just chill. It's a full day where you have permission to rest and relax, because a vacation is not just about doing things in a different place. It's about recovering, resting, and relaxing. So indulge yourself. Really enjoy it. Put on a face mask. Ice roll your face right into oblivion. And take a deep breath and remember that it's okay. And I'm saying that because I had to say that to myself last night when I was starting to not feel super good, feeling guilty about missing an event. And I just said, you know what? No, I'm going to let myself indulge in going to bed so freaking early, and I'm going to love it. And that duvet day might only last a few hours, and that is good enough. It's what you need. So I guess what I'm trying to say throughout this episode is, 1, prepare like a motherfucker. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It is okay to have anxiety about travel, and it makes sense. 3, if you are guilty for not doing enough on your trip, give yourself a little hug and tell yourself to throw it into the fuck it bucket, because you are there and that is enough. And 4, give yourself grace, because travel has to come with flexibility when you are a chronic illness baddie. And last but not least, drink a lot of water and eat food so that you stay happy and healthy. And that's my guide to traveling with a chronic illness. I love you guys, as always. Thank you for joining me this Monday, and I will see you here next week. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me for another week of Calling in Sick. As a reminder, I would love for y'all to like, follow, subscribe, save, share with a friend, do all of the things. It truly helps grow this community, and it helps these episodes reach the people that need them the most, whether that's for an educational piece, to have a little laugh, or to not feel so alone. As a reminder, Calling in Sick sits on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, and anywhere else where you can find your listens. From the bottom of my heart, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for calling in sick with me every Monday. It's been an honor and a pleasure so far, and I can't wait to continue. I can't wait to continue building this community with y'all. Love you.